Today's conversation is about the sneaky way childhood trauma shapes your adult life, even if you think you didn't have any childhood trauma. So get something strong, sit back, relax, watch, enjoy the show. But the truth is, this is not going to be a very comfortable conversation. This is going to be a difficult conversation because I'm going to call out so many things about this issue, the real cost of this problem, the real consequences of this problem, what typically people go for help with, and the things they seek out so that they can be free of these things, and what often doesn't work and what actually works. And what I mean by works is, how can you get to the other side so that you can finally live the life you have always dreamed about? So that you can finally have an amazing relationship with yourself, so that you can finally experience self-love, so that you can finally feel as confident as you deserve to be, so that you can finally make the money you deserve to make, so that you can finally be as fulfilled and happy and excited and joyful as you want to be, and ultimately have the inner peace and the freedom that so many people search for. And unfortunately, they search for it in the wrong place, which is then costing them a lot of time, money, and energy, and of course, frustration. So, if you're curious about this topic, again, we're going to go pretty deep today because this is something that I'm faced with every single day. This is something I help people break through, and I have literally become an expert and a specialist in this because I have gotten so deep into the psychology and the understanding and, again, the ramifications of this. And here's the best part, though. Anybody who wants to be free can be free. Not that difficult to do when you know which approach to take that actually works. So, for example, I already know if somebody tells me that they're struggling with chronic anxiety, if they're struggling with a lot of self-doubt, with fears, with emotional baggage, even with depression or addiction, you can be guaranteed that they are the victim of childhood trauma. Now, again, I know that so many people, when they first meet me, when we first have that conversation, they will often come quickly to a defense. Oh, no, I never had childhood trauma. I had a wonderful childhood. Everything was great. I had wonderful parents. That might be true. You might consciously realize that, and I'm not taking that away from you. You might be absolutely right about that. Your perception as an adult might be, hey, I had a wonderful, and obviously for those people that blatantly know that they had childhood trauma, to them it's already obvious. So they already know where a lot of these limitations come from. Because again, if you feel like your confidence or your health or your energy is somehow impacted, and no matter what you do, nothing helps, well then again, there's a lot of baggage there that has contributed to this issue, to these problems, to these physical, emotional, mental challenges, right? But so for the people that think, and I think it's important for us to start here, that absolutely fundamentally believe that they had no childhood trauma, again, I can understand why you might think that. Because what we as adults often don't understand, and this is something that I didn't realize either before I got into this work, that trauma doesn't just mean, horrific car accident and abuse and neglect and total negligence and emotional abuse or physical. It is that, obviously, that's the obvious one. But trauma can often be something like, let's just say, a little child before the age of 7 or so, because that's a very critical age, because before the age of 7, a person does not yet have a conscious mind. And what it means is not that there's something missing, but up until the age of 7, a child doesn't have the ability to differentiate, is this right, is this wrong, is this true, is this not true, is this good, is this bad? a child simply absorbs the world around them, witnesses, watches, learns, and basically interprets everything in their language as, oh, this is good, this is bad, or I should believe this, or I should. And little by little, by the time a child is 7 years old, they have absorbed so much information. So much of that information has shaped their personality, has shaped on how they believe, what they believe about, shaped their fears, their limitations, who do they think they are, and things like that, right? And here's the thing. Now, let's say something happens during those first 7 years. And of course, for a lot of people, this is not just a one-time happening. This is a repeat. This happens frequently. Let's say they experience something where, let's just call it a difficult situation. Now, to you and me, it may seem like a very silly situation, like, oh, what's the big deal? No big deal. Let's just say the child plays hide and seek and the brother or sister or whatever locks them up in the basement because whatever, it's part of the game, right? And logically, no big deal. But what if in that moment, that child feels trapped or helpless, or, oh my God, they forgot about me, or what if I'm going to die here? Because again, remember, a child has a huge fantasy. And based on their interpretation up until now, they have already started to make certain beliefs about life, about themselves, about the world, about people, right? Or let's just say, and this is, by the way, within one session, how we helped somebody break free the fear of public speaking. Again, when you hear this story, you're going to be like, this is so silly. This makes no sense. How can something so, what you and I might consider ridiculous or so small can create such a huge impact? Well, this is, again, fear of public speaking. We get to the root cause, and this gentleman, who's highly educated, brilliant, smart, super capable, competent in his field, right? But for some reason, can't speak publicly, can't lead his team, can't speak up in a boardroom. Well, he is, 5 years old, and he says something at the dinner table, and the father like jumps up, lashes out at this kid, smacks him, gets so upset because of what the child said. Now, in that moment, the kid clearly understands, oh my God, what did I do? I said something, I disappointed my father. And within split seconds, that is when the child decides so many beliefs about this. Speaking up is bad. Speaking up is dangerous. This is not a good thing. Don't talk to authority figures. Try not to challenge, And so many beliefs manifest in that moment. Hence, now this child from the age of 5 all of a sudden developed fear of public speaking, unbeknownst to him. And when we investigated, when we looked at, right, what is the root cause, even he was like, what? Why would something like this cause such a limitation? Well, again, because the subconscious mind during that age makes certain decisions for us to protect us, right? Basically, his subconscious mind is like, hey, you know what? We're not doing that anymore. And anytime that person was around public speaking ideas, his system shut down immediately and brought up fear and panic. Again, to protect him. I know it sounds convoluted and twisted, but can you see, right? So that even at the smallest trigger, that person who had fear of public speaking immediately felt fear and limited and panic, and therefore wasn't able, and right, so his whole system shut down. Now, that, by the way, was an example of childhood trauma. So hopefully I was able to give you a little example, right, on what a child would consider traumatic versus an adult, right? Because we might even look at this experience as, oh, come on, what's the big deal? Your father, he cares about you. He wants what's best for you. Yes, we understand it logically as an adult, but a child has a completely different interpretation. Just like when that kid was locked up in the basement. Now, it was only 3 minutes, but to that child, it felt like eternity. And to that child, that was the origin onset of anxiety, because that's when that child felt helpless and hopeless. They didn't have the resources, they didn't have the support, they didn't know what to do with their emotions, and therefore that fear and that helplessness and hopelessness and panic stayed locked in within their system. And because the person didn't have the opportunity to release those emotions and to understand those emotions and to talk about it, right? If there was a little grandma who would have been there and say, oh, come on, kid, this, you guys are playing hide and seek, you just don't know the rules yet, this is what the real meaning is, and this is how the game is played, and you don't need to be upset when you, right? If somebody would have been there to explain and express how to handle a situation that could potentially be scary, or where you got hurt, or whether people were malicious or not malicious isn't even the issue. It's about how this child interpreted that experience. And that something what you and I might consider so silly and so what's the big deal is often the cause of lifelong anxiety or addiction or depression or self-doubt or limiting beliefs or emotional baggage. And this is what a lot of people don't know. And listen, when I work with my clients, this goes so much deeper. But the good news is that once you identify and investigate, the real root cause, and you unpack the story and you gain a higher perspective from it, that's when everything is going to start to make sense. And that's when you also are able to release a lot of these bottled up emotions that have been stored within you for a very long time, that ultimately are the cause, and we can hold responsible for those health issues and for those things that cause lifelong problems. Speaking of lifelong problems, let's get into what is the real cost and the real ramifications of something like childhood trauma. If the person has not yet done the inner work, if the person hasn't yet received the help they deserve to get. Okay, so some of these things. Number one, and I think this is for me a priority because this is one of the hardest things, and that is relationships. Very often, childhood trauma is the cause of very, very difficult interpersonal relationships because it leads to trust issues, it leads to neediness, it leads to attachment styles, it leads to, if you're familiar with the Stockholm syndrome, it leads to so many complications in a relationship where, even though fundamentally the love might be there and the care might be there, and maybe that spark was there and all the right pieces were in the right places in the beginning of the relationship, but if a person doesn't learn how to break through their own personal limitations, the relationship is going to be the first trigger where some of these things will come through, and some of these things are going to trigger a couple. And this is not just, by the way, a romantic relationship. This is in any relationship. This will cause a very difficult parent-child relationship. This will cause a very difficult boss-employee relationship. And so childhood trauma has the ability to sneak into these relationships, causing a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, because again, what two people really need is compassion and curiosity and excellent communication skills and empathy, right? And did I mention curiosity, right, at the onset? But often because in childhood, sometimes you might have had to tolerate a lot of things, whether it's abuse or neglect or being mistreated, or parents not being emotionally available, or maybe not being emotionally intelligent. And if you did not have the guidance and the help and the support to move through a healthy childhood where somebody knew how to guide you, you can rest assured that this is going to show up in your adult relationships. And that makes for a very, very difficult life because, think about it, as if it wasn't hard enough. So many people spend their day in jobs that are unfulfilling. They have to work or they have to pressurize themselves to keep a certain job, as if that wasn't enough stress. And then coming home and then having more stress at home is just overwhelming, right? The other way childhood trauma shows up very, very in a big way where it can be really hurtful is in our health, of course, because it can lead to things like insomnia. It leads to a lot of tensions and stresses in the body, fatigue, exhaustion. Very often, if people don't take care of this on a psychological, emotional, mental level, well, the ultimate expression is physical. And that's where dis-ease comes in. Fibromyalgia, right? All these autoimmune dis-ease. Again, the minute I hear autoimmune, I already know this is a very, very deeply rooted problem that, by the way, has much less to do with physical disability or issues or mechanical physical things, and much more to do with emotional, mental, psychological issues that are at the root. Needless to say, something like this will severely impact somebody's confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, right? And even self-trust. That's a huge one. And I'm going to do a whole different Facebook Live video, whatever you want to call it, about self-trust and the real root, how you can reestablish trust within yourself, and what's really at the root of these things like self-doubt and self-trust. And so many people struggle with making decisions, and what if I mess up, and what if I do the wrong thing, and what if I made the wrong decision, and what if and so often people are sitting on the sidelines, or they have imposter syndrome, doubting themselves, knowing logically very well that, hey, I'm super educated, I have all the right qualifications, I have all the right certifications, I have all the right degrees, I did all the right things. What is causing me this hesitation? Why am I afraid to put myself out there? Why am I so concerned what other people think of me? Why am I constantly worried about rejection? Right? And those things can hold people back severely because they waste a lot of time, and they cause us to be so distracted. Another way, of course, this shows up in a massive way, is in your career. How many people hold themselves back in their career, being afraid to speak up, being afraid to go after opportunities, being afraid to ask for the raise, not getting the promotion, not getting the respect or even the fulfillment they deserve, because either they're playing small, or they're, dumbing themselves down, or they're avoiding the spotlight, or they're afraid to be seen, or oh, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Who do I think I am? And again, it leads to so many doubts and just kind of hiding in the background, and I'm gonna, let everybody else do that. And here's the thing. Chances are you absolutely deserve to make the money that you need to make. And think about it. Have you not jumped through enough hoops? Have you not endured enough education? Have you not invested enough money, time, and energy into becoming the person you are, the professional you are, have you not been generous and strong enough and kind enough and willing enough and wanting enough? Have you not worked hard enough to get to where you are, only to now find out that you're going to have self-doubt? And no, that has to go. We have got to remove those doubts and those fears and those limitations, because those are the things that ultimately keep people playing small. And those are the things that cause such a waste of time. And speaking about waste of time, yes, often people who realize, wait a minute, I have these fears, I have this anxiety, I have these limitations, I know I could do better, I know that my potential is way up here and I'm playing down here, I get that. And by the way, if that's you, hats off to you, congratulations to you, because I already know I'm talking to somebody who is a high achiever, who's highly motivated, who really wants to succeed, who is willing to jump through all hoops. But chances are you have not yet received the help you deserve to have, because so often people will come to me and they will say, Susan, I have already done decades of therapy. I have read all the self-help books. I have tried the coping skills. I learned everything to manage this issue. I have worked with coaches. I have worked with experts. I have sought out the specialists. I have done everything, and somehow I'm not getting the breakthrough. Why? And by the way, on the other side, invested thousands, okay, tens of 20s of 30,000. Not only that, so there's the cost. So these people have already spent thousands of dollars went to Tony Robbins, jumped up and down for hours and days, right? And yes, some of these things maybe helped them a little bit and for a little while, and temporarily maybe they got the push they needed or they got the pep talk they needed. But here's the thing, you don't need a pep talk or a push or some general idea or some video that you should be watching and regurgitating, and not even affirmations, right? And by the way, the cost isn't just investing the time, money, and energy, but what have you missed out on? The real cost is the promotions that you didn't get, the raise you didn't get, the respect you didn't get, the fulfillment, all the things that a person has missed out on because of, what is the cost of that? And often, this is why I said, I know this is not a comfortable conversation. This is not a convenient situation or conversation. But here's the thing. I am not the kind of person who will sugarcoat something. If we are going to solve a problem, we're going to solve it. And we're going to understand what are the real ramifications of this problem. What's the real problem behind the problem? Why is it so important for us to solve this? Right? And if we don't realize all the different ways this issue is an issue, then no wonder you don't feel motivated enough to do something about it. Because if we don't understand that this is a real massive big freaking problem, why should we invest any time, money, and energy? But when we realize that, oh my God, this is the real cause, this is what's really happening in my life, that's when a person is, if somebody is willing and has the courage to face it and say, wait a minute, no more, I am done, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, I'm going to draw the line in the sand and I will do whatever it takes. That's the kind of investment I need from my people, because then this is going to work, because then I know this person is going to show up and just be like, Susan, how high do you want me to jump? Because this does take work, this does take courage, but I promise you, on the other side of that, the reward, I have no words to express to you. I have no words how rewarding, how fulfilling, how joy promoting, how getting to the other side of all of these limitations and doubts and fears and all the weight that has been holding you down and all the ways this has been teasing you and taunting you and telling you how you can't and you won't. Imagine when that's gone. So if you ask me, and again, I am not the person who gets to decide the value of this work. My client determines the value. Who am I to decide what the value is? But the conversation that I get to have often is, okay, how is this problem a problem? What is it that you want instead? And have you done the math? And so often my clients would be like, if I really look at it, this has cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yeah, I would say that is an appropriate number. But remember, we can buy time back. We can buy time back. You can get back in control of your life. You can absolutely fast forward, stop wasting time, get to the bottom of this. And by the way, so why, in my opinion again, and my experience, okay, because I have rattled my head around, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. These people already worked hard to be free of this. They have already done therapy. They've sought out the psychologist, like psychiatrist. They tried all kinds of meds. What? Why hasn't this worked? What the heck? It hurts me to often have these conversations, say, you've done all of this and you're still stuck in a loop. And by the way, I'm not saying this to accuse anybody or to, but let's think about this logically. And then I realized, okay, now I understand why. Because traditional therapy or even talk therapy or psychology, right, very often addresses the surface and the symptoms of the problem, which that's a good start and that's important. But that's not enough. And that is not how we can get a breakthrough, because if all we do is talk to the conscious mind, which is the conscious mind is responsible for analytical thinking, right? Let's do an evaluation. Great. Willpower, Cool, we need that because we need your will, right? We need your participation. Say, I want this, I will this, got it. The conscious mind is responsible for action taking and decision making. Great, good and useful. And the conscious mind is responsible for 5% of, basically, the conscious mind is responsible for controlling 5% of your life. Here's where it gets interesting. All of these things that I mentioned, childhood trauma, that then leads to anxiety and fears and limitations and addictions and emotional baggage. That's not a conscious problem. All of these things are sitting in your subconscious because, let's think about this logically. Anytime you are triggered, the program takes over. In other words, just like with this very simple example, but it's just a metaphor. Keep in mind the fear of public speaking. That's the metaphor that applies to all these other issues. Person gets triggered, I have fear. Boom, so quickly. All that happens in the subconscious. So that, and that's when the program kind of takes over. The fear, meaning the fear, right, takes over, the panic takes over. And even though the person consciously and willingly and wantingly and logically wants to speak and they want to present and they want to do well, all that is from the conscious logical part of the mind, which again, thank you, I appreciate it. But that part of you is not what controls your behavior, what controls your thoughts, what controls your actions, what controls your beliefs. It's the subconscious, which is 95% of your life is controlled by the subconscious. And that is why we need to work at that level. And that's why this method is effective. And it works fast. So I'm going to repeat this because this is this is the highlight. This is the drum roll part, okay? When we work with the subconscious mind on reprogramming the subconscious mind, it is easy to do. It is natural. There are no dangerous side effects. We get right to the root. You get to understand what is the real cause of this problem. How can you, right? How the 3 steps, really simple. Identify what is the root cause. Number 2, reprogram the mind. In other words, up until now you have been triggered and you did fear. Well, guess what? Now the new trigger, old trigger, same boardroom, same people, same authority figures. But now the response is going to be confidence. The response is now going to be comfort. The response is now going to be calm or even excited. Imagine if you could wake up tomorrow or in a short time and actually look forward to your days and be excited about starting over and getting to the next level and earning the money you deserve to earn and having incredible relationships that you deserve to have, where you can feel happy and fulfilled and understood and seen and heard and truly, truly understood, where you can communicate and feel connected, where you can actually reestablish a trust within yourself that you never had, where you could feel confident and comfortable in your own skin. And speaking up becomes easy, and understanding what your life's purpose is becomes easy. And that's what's on the other side. So step number 2 is reprogramming the subconscious mind so that you as the commander, the conscious mind, when you say boardroom, boom, all systems go and everything lights up in your body. And again, now, instead of shying away and being afraid and feeling timid and, whoa, what if I can't be a good leader? No, you're like, go time, show time. I'm ready. Everybody get out of my way. Imagine if the automatic and new response could be that. Boom. Step number 3 is about empowerment. Now we just want to do some last minute final touch-ups to reinforce this new behavior, to re-imprint, making, because again, the subconscious mind learns through repetition. And there are certain things you can do to program your mind, your subconscious mind, let me be clear again, that will allow you, while you're sleeping, while you're dreaming, while you're meditating, when you're imagining, this is where I teach my clients self-hypnosis, to really reinforce and re-empower this new behavior. And again, whether we're talking about fear of public speaking, whether we're talking about being free of anxiety, whether we're talking about, being free of grief or guilt or hurt or shame, or, letting go of baggage from the past, or resentment, or, feeling inferior, imposter, whatever that might be. Chances are you already know. Even, again, addiction is such a great example for this, because often people think an addiction is going to be hard to break. The withdrawal symptoms are going to be too hard to face. I'm not going to be able to do it. What if I'm not strong enough? You're looking in the wrong place. Again, this is the propaganda that's going on outside there. I totally understand. I hear it. I see it all the time. All these systems, whether it's the tobacco industry, whether it's, the spirit industry, whether the food industry, all these industries, they have a certain agenda. They, propagate certain propaganda. Again, no problem. But we must be careful to not buy into that, to do our homework, to do our research. And one of the easiest ways to break free of an addiction, I don't care how severe it is, how long you've had it, how difficult it might seem, is by reprogramming the subconscious mind. Because again, remember, 95% of your life, of your habits, of your behaviors, of your thoughts, of your beliefs, of your emotions, of your values, and on and on and on, is controlled by our subconscious mind. So then why wouldn't we go straight to the source and train or retrain or even rehabilitate or renegotiate with that's in my opinion, that's the best word, renegotiate. Here's an example why I say renegotiate. Remember, that person who had lifelong fear of public speaking, their subconscious mind, because again, up until the age of 7, a person doesn't have the ability to think with a conscious mind yet. That part of the mind isn't developed yet. They only have the subconscious, and the subconscious makes certain decisions. We make certain decisions before the age of 7, and that person made the decision, public speaking is bad. Public speaking is going to cause rejection. Public speaking is going to cause grief. Public speaking is going to cause pain, whatever it might be. We go back and we're like, hey, subconscious, I can understand. Based on that experience, you tried to protect me. You brought up panic. You brought up fear. Thank you very much. You served me very well up until now. But now, in this current situation, my goals have changed, my intentions have changed, my vision has changed, my priorities have changed, and my beliefs, right? And so now we get to renegotiate and say, hey, subconscious mind, up until now, I was triggered and you did fear for me. Cool, got it. But now, instead, I want you to do confidence. Instead, I want you to do, I'm excited about sharing this information with the public, right? And so clearly, the subconscious mind is going to jump on board, and that is ultimately what allows us to integrate the conscious and the subconscious mind so that they can finally be in alignment with each other and work together instead of against each other, which is what a lot of people experience when they have things like anxiety and addiction and limitations and limiting beliefs and all those distractions people have to, and listen, I've personally, and this is why I do what I do, because personally it hurts me to say and it hurts me to even think about it. That's where I lived, unfortunately, until I woke up and I realized, oh my God, there are actually tools out there that actually can help me and that actually work. And it doesn't take decades of therapy, and it doesn't even take months of therapy, which tried that, done that, didn't work, or at least it didn't work. Thank you. Yeah, he always has to chime in at just the right time. It didn't, I wanted more. I needed more. I wanted a breakthrough. I wanted to have, again, the self-esteem that I had always dreamed about. I wanted to feel confident. I wanted to feel comfortable in my own skin. And then finally, these tools actually worked. And there is no problem that is too big. There is no issue that is too far gone. There is no such thing. There are no limitations. It's just our own self-imposed beliefs that we sometimes think, oh my God, this is too far gone, or I'm too old, or there's no such thing. There's no such thing, because neuroplasticity, and not just neuroplasticity, I could care less. For me, the evidence is, proof is in the pudding. I have worked with hundreds upon hundreds of people. They had all kinds of convoluted issues. You know, a lot of people come to me, they're like, oh my God, I have this weird, this is embarrassing. And I'm like, there is no such thing as embarrassing. There is no such thing as weird. And I'm not here to judge you. Who am I to decide whether something's weird or not, or natural or not natural, or normal or not? That's not my issue. My question is, what is it that you want? How is this causing a problem? What is it that you want? Let's see if we can help you get there as fast as humanly possible. That is the only thing I'm concerned with. Everything else is just an opinion. And so, talk about neuroplasticity. If you want to read on this and you want to dive deep into neuroplasticity, has shown us, and again, proof in the pudding. I have seen this with every single person I've ever worked with, that change is possible, and it's possible fast. And neuroplasticity is the science that is finally caught up with that our mind, our brain, has the ability to rewire itself. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, something that fires together, wires together, right? Neurons that fire together, wire together. Well, again, our work is about disconnecting so that we can find new connections, and that they can then fire together. And that is literally the whole thing behind neuroplasticity. And, you know, again, humans are genius, brilliant. And the thing is, I love this quote. Where is it? The problem isn't you. The problem is the approach. Okay? The problem isn't you. The problem is the approach. And if we seek out interventions and therapies and treatments and methods that don't work, then how could we possibly, you know, yes, of course, we're going to be disappointed and we're going to feel defeated. But remember, it's not you that's the problem. It's the method. It's the approach. And with the right approach, you're going to get the results you want. Period. End of story. So, of course, if you want more, you know where to find me. And I also want to point you, because again, here's the thing. People are like, oh my God, Susan, you're so expensive. Blah, blah. I don't determine a value. My secret sauce is I can help people as fast as humanly possible. If we already understand that so many of these problems already are costing people hundreds of thousands of dollars, then imagine just investing a couple of thousands or a couple of hundreds. And listen, I have programs that range from $300,000 up to $5K, okay, and everything in between. But I also have free. And I would encourage you, that will be a good start. And my book is about to come out, and I'm going to let you know when that is. This would be a good start, and this is free. I created a program that will allow you to unlock your potential. It's a self-discovery program. It takes about 4 hours, and you can do it in your own time, where you get to see what are those personal blocks and blockages that you might have, and those limitations. It's a very it's a practical approach. It's a tool that you get to fill out. Then you learn how to let go of the past, how to let go of these limitations and fears, all in that course, and ultimately how you can empower yourself, how you can unlock your potential. And again, this is a free program. It will give you a taste, it will give you an understanding on how easy, when working with the right methods, how easy change can be, and how you can even start today making this happen. So I'm gonna post that link below. Click on it, have fun with it, enjoy, you know, take time for yourself. And I think you will be really, really delighted with some of the understandings that you will gain from this self-discovery program. And other than that, of course, I also offer a free discovery call where we get deep into what's the problem, how is this problem holding you back, what is it costing you, you know, what is it that you ultimately want, as what would you consider to be the optimal solution if you had a magic wand, and if this problem were no longer a problem and you now got to live your life on your terms, standards, conditions, and definitions of success. What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would that feel like? What would you be experiencing differently? And then of course the goal is to get you there as fast as humanly possible. I'll see you soon.